Last night was the final Dynamite in AEW's long-term residency at Daly's Place. WWE still has a few more shows in the Thunderdome, but their Tampa residency is largely over as well. MLW and ROH are about to start touring, and Impact is welcoming fans into Skyway Studios. It's been quite the time for pro wrestling, but fans are coming back. I'm Ryan Joy, and I run MinutesToBellTime.com, a website database tracking pro wrestling from around the world. On today's show, we're talking about the empty arena era of pro wrestling. What were some of the big wins, and what things did not work? We have headlines from the last 24 hours, including WWE's top 5 tag teams of all time. John DeConnie is in the house, and this is the Daily Wrestling News Show for July 1st, 2021, where we sort through all the bullshit in wrestling news to find you the truth. John, welcome to the show.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very good. The empty arena era is just about over.
Thank goodness, right?
Absolutely. Well, here's some of the headlines, I guess, in that regard. AEW kicks off their tour in Miami next week on July 7th. MLW has Battle Riot on July 10th in Philadelphia. Ring of Honor has Best in the World on July 11th. We have Impact Wrestling with Empty Arena for today, July 8th and July 15th. But then we have Slammiversary on July 17th. Television tapings after that. They announced 4 sessions of tapings on the 18th and 19th from Skyway Studios. WWE has SmackDown on July 2nd and Raw on July 5th and 12th without fans. But then the fans are back when they go on the road for July 16th SmackDown in Houston. NXT has about 300 people in the CWC now, and I haven't heard anything about their next steps. But for the most part, empty arenas are gone.
Oh, it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to have genuine crowd reaction back.
100%. It's funny when you come off of several Dynamites that have been on Friday and one on Saturday, and you felt like a little down on those shows, and then they come back last night and you had a great live crowd, and you had a real good show, and it just felt like the magic was back.
Yeah, exactly. Everything was back to normal. We were back to our normal pacing, back to our normal schedule, back to the normal feel in the building. Last night was a real shot in the arm, I think, for the wrestling industry altogether, at least in my mind.
100%. So I thought, given the fact that we are transitioning now back to live crowds, that it was a good time for us to look back and say, okay, well, we've had a year and a half of empty arena events. What worked? What didn't work? What did we like? What are our favorite moments from that period of time? And, what do we hope they maybe keep or whatever? So, John, any thoughts on the past 18 months or so? Like, what are some of your favorite things from that period?
Well, I didn't think I was going to like it quite as much as I wound up liking it, but the Thunderdome idea, it really worked. It's not like I want to see it continue, forever. But those first handful of shows in the Performance Center with no one in the building, and I found myself listening to see whether or not I can catch the wrestlers calling their moves and whatnot, which luckily, no one was very sloppy or anything like that. But just listening to Bayley in the middle of a match, as funny and entertaining as it was, stop to yell at Michael Cole because she could hear exactly what he was saying and vice versa. Again, as entertaining as some of those moments were, that overall first little while in the building before they pumped in any kind of white noise, when it was just dead silent in the building, those shows, some of them were borderline painful. And I think just as much for the performers as it was for us. Yeah,
they really were. And you had a whole WrestleMania that was shot that way. And as a matter of fact, there was supposed to be when the pandemic first started was in March of 2020, and they were getting ready to celebrate Austin 316 Day, and that was going to be in Pittsburgh. And I was living in Maryland at the time, and I was like, maybe I'll do that 8-hour drive or whatever it is to Pittsburgh and check out Austin 316 Day. I'm glad I didn't buy that ticket. And that show was rough. That was poor Steve Austin, who's down there who has just got a history of the fans like cheering and, you know, getting beer and celebrating with the fans and stuff like that. That was just, you could tell just by watching Steve, like, wow, this is not normal. So
yeah. Wasn't there also like a Triple H 20 or 25 year celebration somewhere in there too? That just went over like that.
Yeah. A lot. All those Performance Center shows, I think it'd be tough to go back and watch those now. But there were some high moments. There's some good things that happened even back then, like when Becky Lynch had to surrender the championship and say she was going off to be a mom. It was a feel good moment at that time as well. I also look back at AEW, and I really look back fondly at that period of time, though, that they were in Georgia at the gym, and they had those several episodes that they shot like all in a matter of a few days because they were afraid that they were going to get shut down and wouldn't be able to run. So they taped like 2 months worth of content in a space of 2 or 3 days. I look back fondly at those shows because we got to see a lot of the best friends. We saw some great Kenny Omega matches. That was the whole Pineapple Pete era of Dynamite, right? Being on the sidelines. That's when Jericho took the reins on commentary for a couple of weeks. So we got exposed to a whole bunch of different things at that point. And I think that taught AEW an awful lot about producing content every week, especially during this pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every organization had their own little thing, like Impact. Well, it was empty, then it was the roster around ringside, then it was all right. The restrictions are getting a lot tougher, so now the roster can't be around ringside, so they started pumping in a little bit of the white noise. Like, everyone went through their growing pains, and they all hit their stride. And, as absolutely elated as I am that the fans are coming back, the last 6 or 8 months, once everyone had hit their stride, you almost forget that these are empty buildings because it got back to being wrestling. And, part of it was, okay, this is the norm, but it was an acceptable norm at that point. You were longing for the real crowd reaction, but I wasn't so much irritated by the pumping in the noise.
On Impact, I don't even notice it at all. And I think it's because, and Ring of Honor is good about this too. They shoot that show so tightly that you don't even think that there's room for people to be there.
Very true.
So, I'm really looking forward to Ring of Honor because they have been completely empty, and the camera work has been like really, really tight on the wrestlers the whole time. So it'll be fun to see what that looks like. And then MLW always has sort of a vibrant South Philly type of crowd in the arena. So I'll be excited to see them come back in Philly. I'm very eager for this. As you can tell, I'm holding my hands up. But there were some, we talked about some of the low points. You even saw footage of the wrestling stopping during commercial breaks during the first one, which didn't work for international feeds. But, also, how about that eye for an eye match?
Don't get me started on that again. Not unless you want this show to go over by about 45 minutes.
Well, I was fortunate enough to move to Florida during the pandemic, and in Florida, I was able to see a lot of live wrestling. I went to many Dynamites in a row. I had like a season pass for several. So I saw Brody Lee's last match, and I was there for his tribute episode. I saw Chris Jericho's 30th anniversary at Daly's Place, and I saw the 1-year anniversary show of Dynamite. So I got to see a lot of good Dynamite AEW stuff live in Florida because they had limited capacity that they could run. And I also saw a whole lot of independent, like CCW has been on the show a lot. So I did okay once I got down to Florida in terms of seeing stuff live, but there was some good stuff out of Daly's Place.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That what was it? It was August, I think 27th was the first time Dynamite opened up, and they were at like 10 or 15% capacity. That first show, and again, I'm a mark. I know I am, but the first Jericho Judas entrance with people in the building, like my heart was in my throat. Like it was like, oh my God, here we are. We're back. There's genuine reaction. It's, it's more than just the roster around the ringside, and as deep as the roster is, they filled in nicely. But when fans were legit back, even in small numbers, oh, just what a boost that was, like a B12 shot.
Absolutely. And then there's WrestleMania, right? WrestleMania was such a milestone for WWE. And again, I happened to be there, but when all the wrestlers came out and stood there with Vince McMahon and welcomed back to fans and everything like that, and Sami Zayn's jumping 12 feet in the air because in celebration, that was like a goosebump moment. It's a marker. And I'm looking forward to seeing, getting to that SmackDown in Houston and seeing what that crowd reaction's like that night, and then Money in the Bank the next night. So there were some good things. I did like, there was some creativity in WWE's side of the house, like the Boneyard match, and even the Funhouse match and stuff like that. These were things that WWE really hadn't dabbled in before. They were completely unheard of, right? Matt Hardy did something like this with Jeff in Impact before, but cinematic matches really weren't a thing very much. But we've got the Boneyard match, we got the Stadium Stampede match now. Even Sting and Darby Allin had a cool cinematic match, so it can extend the longevity of some of the older wrestlers to do some of these cinematic matches, and we get to see some of these characters live on maybe longer than they would normally. So.
Yeah, when I was kind of going over a mental list of the MVPs of the, empty era, and in my head I was kind of concentrating on WWE because it was so much more prevalent. Drew became an absolute megastar. Sasha and Bailey were unbelievable. Asuka, every time Asuka would cut a promo where you could not understand two words in 3 minutes of her babbling. And yet it still was entertaining. MVP coming back and putting together the Hurt Foundation, the Hurt Business, which would kind of relaunch Bobby Lashley into meaning something. But maybe the biggest MVP of the whole COVID era you just mentioned is Matt Hardy, because his creativity fed AEW. AEW very much, got the rub from just having him on board, and it forced everyone else to say, all right, can we do that too? Because what they're doing is really good stuff. And you get things like that Boneyard match, which was fantastic. And considering how, Mezamez, the farewell to Taker was, with the piping in the thank you Taker chants, that thank God that the Boneyard match exists, because that'll be my final memory of Taker.
100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you've done a good job of putting a period at the end of this sentence in this discussion too, about the empty arena era. I did have one question come in as we were talking here from Josiah Severance. We talked about a couple companies having pay-per-views, MLW and Impact, and those. Anybody going to pay Strowman some money and get him on one of those shows? Strowman has a 90-day non-compete, so I don't think he's eligible for Slammiversary.
Right.
But
we're still walking that in-between line where he swears he's never going to work for anyone but WWE, and yet if you've got $25,000, he'll at least show up and sign some 8x10s.
Right.
So I don't know.
I think that there's a place for Strowman in wrestling, and I think that he'll find some place, and he may just come right back to WWE. I don't think that's out of the question at all. So
if he's willing to take a pay cut, I think Vince, come on. Is he any more prototypical of what Vince loves in a wrestler?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hit the nail on the head there. So, all right, with that said, we have a whole bunch of other stuff to get into. John DeConti has about 37 and a half rumors that I need to go through after the break. So we are going to sort through all those, and I'll let you know which ones are bullshit and whatnot. But we have a minute and a half commercial break. We'll see you when we get back. If you love the Daily Wrestling News Show, then I want to tell you how you can support us. First, check out bodyslamclothes.com. You can get a variety of shirts for just $20. and all of them come in the super soft style, and the price you see includes all sizes and shipping. Get 10% off 2 or more shirts with the promo code SHIRTS10. Go to bodyslamclothes.com right now to check it out. And join Joey Jarzenka, Ian Schreier, and Rob DeLuca on Monday nights for the Primetime Rundown. They take you through the world of sports, and the show kicks off each Monday at 7 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And each Tuesday, Al Carl hosts the Essential Wrestling Podcast alongside John Smith, myself, John DeConnie, and Gary Mahaffey. It's another week of updates and highlights in the world of wrestling. Here are our analysis on who we think is going to win the week's matches. Coverage begins at 6 p.m. on the Eastern Observer. And Pro Wrestling Pick'em. It's a place where you can join or host a Pick'em League to test your predictive skills in the world of pro wrestling. Create an account and join a league now at ProWrestlingPick'em.com so you can play against your friends or play against the universe. And the Body Slam Brigade newsletter, currently going out to over 4,200 people each Friday. It consolidates all the top stories in professional wrestling into a quick-to-read email written by me for you for free. Sign up now at bodyslambrigade.com. And of course, this show, the Daily Wrestling News Show. We're here every day, Monday through Thursday, and occasionally on Friday. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, or watch us live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 a.m. This is the Daily Wrestling News Show, and we thank you for your support. Okay, John, we're back, and it's rumor time. What do you have for us today?
All right. To start off with, on Tuesday night, we all saw Mercedes take a heck of a kick to the head, and she was definitely goofy afterwards. We're seeing rumors saying she was hospitalized. I would never minimalize an injury, which clearly she had. Was she hospitalized, or did she just go to the hospital?
So here's what we know. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful reported on Twitter that Mercedes was checked out in the back and she was headed to the hospital. We have no reason to believe that isn't true. There's no update on her condition, and there has been no word on whether or not she was hospitalized or whether she was checked out and then sent home. I would assume it's checked out and sent home. But
sounds good.
Because we haven't heard anything of her being hospitalized for any extended period of time. So I would assume she got checked out and went home.
Good. Yes, that would be the best case scenario. Speedy recovery, Mercedes. Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt was a backstage agent, I guess, with WWE, and he kind of asked for his release or asked to leave kind of before they could get a chance to fire him. And is he already working backstage at AEW?
Yeah, so multiple outlets did report that Sanjay Dutt had left the company by his own decision. First reported by Fightful, then picked up by PW Insider and talked about on Wrestling Observer. And that was a couple of weeks ago that he left WWE. He had given notice and everything, did things the proper way. He was, as reported by PW Insider, backstage at Dynamite last night working as a producer. And then the terminology here is key. The wording is key. They said, PW Insider said, that they believe he is to be working full-time as a producer at Dynamite. Believe. Nothing confirmed. So it's out there, and until we get a confirmation on that, we can't report it as news. But it's certainly appears he was working backstage at Dynamite as a producer. We just don't know if he's long-term there.
Okay. WWE has applied for trademarks for Nikki Ash. And, oh, dear God, Happy Corbin.
That's true. Don't know what they're going to do with those. I guess we can assume that Nikki Ash is Nikki Cross, and
sure.
Happy Corbin. I assume that's going to be his new moniker, but you never know. Maybe he'll have a puppet or something. I don't know. Nothing out of the question there. We just know those trademarks were filed.
I'm so afraid to see what that one's going to be. Happy Corbin. Okay, tell me what you know about Senior VP of Talent Development. Is it Canyon Seaman?
Yep.
Okay.
So the Wrestling Observer incorrectly reported that he had left the company. They acknowledged their mistake. Others have acknowledged that it was a mistake, and he is still working with the company.
Okay, good. Because he's had a hand in the UK product and NXT, so
yeah,
don't want to see any shuffling of that because they've been doing such a fantastic job.
Right.
Okay. All right. So now, here's a fairly big one. We've heard about some dark matches. We've heard about Pritchard and others going down to the PC to CWC to check out some of the stars to possibly pull some NXT people up. Am I understanding correctly that the PC is beefing up security for a scouting visit from Vincent Kennedy McMahon himself this week?
Today. Vince McMahon should be there today. I haven't heard anything about the security. That is an interesting thing, but I guess it makes sense. I don't think it actually makes sense at all. But I hadn't heard anything about the security. But he is meant to go there today, is what was reported by Fightful and was confirmed by other outlets as well.
Right. Okay. And that kind of plays into the fact that there have been some NXT talents working dark matches. We've already discussed Cross and Bronson Reed. I understand Scarlett actually in-ring work as well as shots.
Yep, that's all been reported. I think we actually talked about it on the show a couple of times. Scarlett and Shotzi apparently backstage at SmackDown usually each week, and they would apparently worked a match, not a taped match for release anywhere. It might have been taped for consumption by agents or whatever. But that's out there. That's happening. Now I don't know. There was talk about these being all these people coming in working dark matches in preparation for the draft, and I don't know that that's true. They have been coming in, they've been working these matches, and obviously they're being scouted for main roster, but whether or not that pertains to the draft or it's something that happens earlier or after, that's not anything that's been out there has been confirmed or really could be, because if they decide they want Karrion Kross on Raw next week, he's going to be on Raw next week. If they want him on SmackDown this week, he's going to be on SmackDown. So if they decide to wait for a draft, then okay, but I think they're just scouting at this point.
Okay. All right. Now, and there are rumors that there are more changes coming. I don't know if that, means cuts or whatnot, but specifically there could be some big changes backstage. Any inkling as to what that might mean?
That report came directly from Fightful. It was a direct quote from them. And their track record, Fightful's, is pretty good, but there's nothing tangible really that we can discuss. That could mean anything. It could mean that Vince McMahon's taking vacation, or it could mean they're going to fire all of the agents, or it could mean they're going to hire a bunch of new people, because I would think the Thunderdome setup versus the road setup is completely different. So it could just mean a ton of different things. And they're going to have different needs when they go on the road. So I really don't know.
Nothing to sink the teeth into in that one.
Right.
Okay. Any updates or any theories or possibilities on the reason for Randy Orton not being there this week?
No. I mean, for all I know, he could have been there. That's one thing. I don't think anybody has any confirmation on. Just that it could be storyline. I don't think there's anything on that.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, here's one that a good many folks from the main roster are visiting the PC this week to get some ring work in, including one very big name.
Sasha Banks, right? Yeah. So that was a report from Fightful on Fightful Select. And there's really no reason not to believe it. We heard a lot about Vince McMahon wanting to send people there to get sharper as the pandemic era rolls forward and is about to end, and people haven't got the reps that they usually get in with working 4 days on the road and stuff. So I don't think there's any reason to believe this isn't true.
Okay. And lastly, I know this is going to break Al Carl's heart because he won't be able to make his Japanese baseball jokes and references. And in fact, I had made a note in my notes to try and, to add a little joke this week. We had talked about how Hideki Suzuki was kind of the love child of Hideki Matsui and Ichiro Suzuki, two of the greatest Japanese baseball players of all time. I wanted to make a joke this upcoming week about maybe they were going to change his name and give him a middle name and use Sadahara O, the Babe Ruth of Japan. Apparently, he is getting a name change, and I guess if you blinked on Tuesday night, you missed it, but I think they already kind of leaked it on NXT this week, and I missed it.
Yes, Wade Barrett Wade Barrett actually ran down the entire Diamond Mine group. He's like, obviously this is Roderick Strong, and we got Malcolm Bivens, and you got Tyler Rust, and I believe it's pronounced Hachi Man. It's sort of like Hatchet Man, but Hachi Man type of thing. Is Suzuki's new name.
Very good, very good. Well, I think you, sir, have sorted through all the bullshit.
Bullshit sorted. All right. Well, we have some more headlines, so let me play the bumper and we'll get into the headlines. So there's one other little rumor and rumor that we were talking about before we went on the air, John, and that was John Morrison's cryptocurrency thing that's floating out there. And I guess there's been some reports that WWE approved cryptocurrency for John Morrison. I will give you the direct quote. John Morrison spoke to someone from DAZN, and what he said was, they, WWE, want to do crypto drip. I pitched that for 2 months. That fits so many things. Did not elaborate that he meant cryptocurrency. So let's, we can make assumptions. We can make leaps from that and whatnot. That's fine. But crypto drip, I don't know. That could mean anything. It could be, it really could mean, it really could mean anything. It could be a storyline thing. Like Cameron Grimes did not really go out and invest a whole bunch of money in GameStop, I don't believe. But so it could be a complete storyline thing, or it could be that he's doing really cryptocurrency. We don't know. So
very good, very good. Yeah, I looked right past that on my rumor sheet. Thank you for catching me on one.
And then some other headlines: Cody Rhodes, Brandy Rhodes, and daughter Liberty Rhodes will be all over the latest issue of People. I guess she's Liberty Reynolds until she makes a wrestling debut, and then she might be Liberty Rhodes. But
exactly.
She will be in People magazine. And then John DeConnie, are you a skateboard guy?
Not in the least.
Well, if you were, you could go over to the 9club.com. They have a series of skateboards. They're all legends, wrestling legends. So you can get your Mean Gene Okerlund skateboard, you can get your Junkyard Dog, or you can get your Jimmy Hart. Those are all available right now for $100 on the 9club.com. Apparently soon they're going to have a Steve Austin, Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior, Randy Savage, and Jake Roberts edition. So those are supposed to come out this Sunday. So they might look pretty cool on your wall, even if you don't skate around.
Yeah. If I see an upcoming signing, I might pick up a Jake one to just have it the plain deck signed. Yeah.
There you go. That's fun. Rebel, not Reba. She suffered a dislocated kneecap on last night's episode of Dynamite. That's tough. She doesn't wrestle that many matches, and to get that kind of an injury,
yeah. Well, I guess the crutch will be back.
Yeah, awesome. Alex Gracia, she got a ticket to gold for Ring of Honor's women's tournament. That comes right as the news of Vita Von Star getting removed from the tournament because she's been interfering in matches, and that is not what Maria Kanellis Bennett wanted for the tournament. So Alex Gracia in, Vita Von Star out.
All right.
And then Jay White versus David Finlay for the Never Openweight Championship at Resurgence. That's their U.S.-based show, August 14th. That's the first match announced. They announced a whole bunch of names, but that is the first match that they've announced for that show. So
that's New Japan Strong?
Yep. Nice. New Japan Strong. It's their American edition. And then, John DeConnie, what do you think about the top 5 tag teams of all time from WWE? The New Day takes the top spot. We really thought it would be the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian, the Hart Foundation, and then the New Day. But
well, as our stat man Al Carl had mentioned in pre-production, they've had the most runs, they've had the longest run. They are homegrown, and while it's completely self-serving, I could never say anything bad about the New Day. They entertain the hell out of me, so I can't really complain about it. I probably would have put them at 2, assuming that WWE was going to do something self-serving and bump them way, way, way up the list. I kind of figured them for 2, but look at the talent in this whole top 10. There's not a lot you can really complain about.
No. These teams, with the exception of the Hart Foundation, I'm having a hard time with them in the top 5. They probably are in my top 5 from a favorite standpoint.
Absolutely.
But I don't know about the top 5 tag teams of all time for WWE, but I'm fine with them being there. So. Yeah. We had some news coming out of Dynamite last night. We had a whole bunch of matches announced, but on the show, we had Eddie Kingston and Penta. They got a win in a tag team title eliminator match. That never happens. This is the first time that's ever happened. So they are getting a tag team title match next week on the road in Miami against the Young Bucks. So
that damn Brandon Cutler and that freeze spray.
On the same night, we are going to also see Andrade's AEW debut against Matt Sydal. So it'll be really fun to see Andrade wrestle Sydal because of the styles that they have, and I'm very interested to see what Andrade can do outside of WWE.
Sure, and see what how he finishes the match. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, good point.
Does he use that spinning back elbow? I don't think so, at least not initially.
Yeah, and the spinning back elbow was never his finisher, right? His finisher is the hammerlock DDT. That
True.
Spinning back elbow is a transition move for him.
Yeah.
It just happens to also be a stronger move than the Judas effect, which is the same move.
How dare you?
I know. Also next week, Santana Ortiz and Jake Hager versus FTR and Wardlow. Cody versus QT Marshall in a strap match. And Orange Cassidy will team up with Chris Statlander to face the Blade and the Bunny. Plus, we are going to learn the stipulations that MJF will put down on Chris Jericho in order for Jericho to earn a match with MJF. Last time, this was Cody had to do this. He had to fight Wardlow in a cage, and he had to take 10 whippings from a strap. So I'll be interested to see what MJF has come up with for Jericho this time.
Yeah, it'll be entertaining because when he's speaking, when he's coming up with devious plans, he is just about second to none.
Absolutely. They started super teasing Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. I didn't think they were ready for this, but apparently they're going to start pushing this. I'd assume it's going to be all out, but I was thinking it was full gear. So I guess we'll be getting this match sooner than later. But they didn't announce anything. Hangman didn't officially make a challenge. Kenny didn't officially accept a challenge. But at some point down the road, they're going to be squaring off. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah, the Dark Order has lit the fuse on the slowest burning storyline in wrestling over the last year, and perhaps the most entertaining.
Absolutely. Evil Uno making the challenge for him. Brian Cage versus Ricky Starks on July 14th for the FTW Championship. So,
welcome back, Ricky Starks.
Yeah, absolutely. And that MJF and Guevara match was incredible, wasn't it?
It started off a little plotting. Like I was like, ooh, like the first 3 minutes or so, it was like a choreographed dance, and they were tripping over each other's feet a little bit. But I cannot remember the last time a match that started out with that feeling for me ended like, wow. They really, really, I mean, what is it? It was a 20-minute match. So like the first 3 minutes or so were, oh boy, is this really going to be main event worthy? And by the end, it was, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was. The Sammy Guevara doing like a springboard somersault senton over the barricade onto MJF that into the crowd. Yeah. Right, those were not extras. So good stuff on Dynamite last night. I did like that match quite a bit. I'm not a huge fan of the big interference finish. It seems like that's how we have to end all the big matches these days. But it was a good match, and I am okay with the fact that there was interference at that end, because I was saying that I really thought Sammy Guevara needed the win, and this way they kind of protect him some so they can come back to it later if they need or want. So
as Travis said in the watch along thread, because that was a pay-per-view quality match, pay-per-view length, pay-per-view quality. If that had happened at a pay-per-view, I probably would have been pissed.
Yeah.
The fact that it happened on a Wednesday night, I'm kind of okay with it, because it kind of filled exactly the need we had there.
Yeah, and I think they will come back to it. So
absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's issue the lineups for tonight. NXT UK this afternoon, we have Jack Stars versus Tyler Bate for the Heritage Cup. A-Kid will face Jordan Devlin. NXT UK Women's Champion and girlfriend of Minoru Suzuki, Meiko Satomura, will appear on NXT UK. On Impact tonight, we have TJP and Falaba versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack. Chris Bay versus Petey Williams. Sami Callihan, Moose, and Chris Sabin versus Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers. Eddie Edwards versus Kojima. And then on SmackDown, we have Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn in a Money in the Bank qualifying last person standing match. So that is the wrestling that round out the rest of the week. John, anything on the list that you're particularly looking forward to?
Yes. With the Thunderdome coming to an end, I want to see just how creative they let Sammy and KO get, because, you know, they've probably worked with each other 200 times. So they've got plenty of stuff to go into, you know, the bag of tricks with. And I fully expect them to do some crazy stuff to take advantage of one of the last shows where there's no one in the building. They can get away with doing some, you know, cute stuff.
Yeah, think back to the Kevin Owens Roman Reigns last man standing match. Man, Kevin Owens has some tricks up his sleeve, and I think he'll be jumping off of those monitors at some point. So
100%.
All right. Well, John, did we miss anything today?
Certainly nothing on tap for this week, but I'd like to take just a quick second to acknowledge something that we will wind up missing next week that I was really looking forward to. I didn't realize how the schedule was going to play out, but in my estimation, my humble ECW Mark estimation, the greatest moment in the history of WWE Monday Night Raw, July 9th, 2001, the 20th anniversary of Feel It, JR. Feel this moment for the rest of your life. The invasion of Rob Van Dam, Tommy Dreamer, and the ECW originals turning on the WWF.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we do have a programming note for everybody. We are not going to have shows next week. I will be off doing some vacation family things. So no shows next week. We will return the following week, probably on Tuesday. Stay tuned to social media. I'll let you know. But yeah, that's it. John, that's our show, I think, right?
Absolutely. Enjoy your vacation, sir. It's a pleasure as always.
All right. Thank you, sir. For John, I'm Ryan, and we will see you in about a week. All right. Or about 2 weeks.